Hello there, everybody. Welcome back to the NLC. Welcome back to the final regular split match of spring. We have got Domino facing off against Veneer. Championship points on the line here. Nativz can pull out the win. They're going to leapfrog Domino off the bottom of the standings. If Domino can stand strong, get their first win of the second round robin, then they're going to keep that distance between themselves and Nativz off the foot of the table.
But the names are switched because maybe it's Nativz on the right side, but they are the ones that have knocked down the first domino because they got a win yesterday. They're looking to end 2-0, and that would honestly be enough for them to overtake Domino in the standings. But if Domino, on the other hand, were able to beat Nativz, there's suddenly a tie between them and Unique for that last spot as well. Not spot into playoffs, but pride is still there to play for. These guys want to show that they deserve to be in the NLC on the next split, improve their market value, and improve their eyes, therefore, in the view of you guys, right? The audience. So pay attention to this game. You could decide the futures of every single player on your screen right here. Or you can meme them into the unemployment line and order McDonald's from them the very next week at the hash browns. Those things are tasty.
Oh, they are good.
Annie has been removed. Bot lane priority bans are not existent here. Remix and Lari apparently just not on the level of players like them Voxnay, players like Jinjo. But the Gragas is out. Classic red side first pick the entire day. The Olaf's out. Big thing for Spooder, right?
Yep.
Big respect being shown to him. Annie's out and the Ashe is out. That looks like they don't want Snabby to be on such a heavy prio pick. Oh, Johan's just spawned into every game, I guess.
I mean, Lee Sin has looked pretty decent on the day. I can't expect that is going to be a Lee Sin mid, although stranger things have happened. We're getting through these initial picks pretty damn speedy with the Jace locked in here for Nativz and picking up the Zoe for Remix.
Poke, mobility, potential siege composition, that's what I'm thinking. You can't just go into disengage on the side of Domino, and if you go into engage, sure, the Gragas is down, but they could find other kinds of disengages to go against you. Lulu's the big champion I'm thinking about right now. If this ends up being a Zeri Lulu composition, what is your response going to be to that? Looks like right now they're thinking, okay, Syndra, long-range engage, that would be something that if Nativz were to pick up the Syndra, would fit really well if they were to get into a turret siege situations or neutral objective situation where they want to transition more into a pick poke comp. Nautilus, the classic under tower press R re-engage on you kind of champ. They are thinking about countering Nativz. So can Nativz get a form of disengage now that would dissuade the Domino all in if they end up in a siege scenario?
I mean, ideally you want something like the Gragas, but that's off the board. The Renata would be incredible here. Could prevent the dive from the Lee Sin and from the Nautilus and zone away the Syndra. So all of this pick potential that Domino have got for getting on top of Remix going to be a little bit harder now.
Yeah, you definitely can't do a dive scenario, and even if you get a range pick of the Renata is in a good enough position, man, this Syndra has to be in a late game scenario or you're probably not getting a full burst off. You have very tanky builds coming out of the Zeri. The Jace you have to think would be pretty far away on that kind of pick. I like it so far. Removing the Varus that could potentially follow up a ranged engage and therefore get the burst off before the Renata can get there. They want to make sure the Syndra is the only ranged engage option they have. If they don't have anything to follow that up with, then maybe it's impossible to actually destroy Nativ's composition before the Renata shuts you down.
And Kiba had a pretty good performance on her earlier on in the day. I wonder if Baloo is going to be able to replicate that. And for Nativz, I think coming into this game, they're in a very, very freeing spot because you're down in the dumps, right? But you got that win yesterday, and there's a decent chance that you can get it up against Domino today. And I think it'd be a great way to cap off what has been ultimately a disappointing split for these guys, for them to get that 2-0 victory. We are seeing a bit of targeting away at hyper carries on the bottom lane here with that Sivir taken away from Lari. Actually, a lot of AD carries off the board, so he's going to have to dig a little bit deeper into his pool.
Both teams have definitely had issues getting it up the rest of the split, but the Sivir being down, that's something that could potentially help Domino follow up any of these picks in a very, very fast manner and close the gap. The Caitlyn is still up. Would you be willing to do a mid lane Caitlyn to Syndra? This is something you used to see as a potential counter into AP mages in the mid lane, particularly back in the Season 3-4 days where Caitlyn Lulu lanes in mid lane were just played into a Karthus. But I doubt that's going to be locked in. Maybe Remix is more saying this is an option for Lari. Lari likes those kind of lane dominant champions, even if he is left somewhat on his own. Ooh, this indicates the potential for a mid lane ADC pick.
Yes.
In towards the Syndra that has been locked in.
I mean, something like a Tristana, maybe, from Scuffed is something that we could potentially see. Domino have left their AD carry pick for last, and Lari just now rotating through the options. You could go for something like the Syndra, which is... Not the Syndra, the Kai'Sa, which has got an incredible ability to capitalize on a load of this pick CC. If he's far away, can just Killer Instinct in and start dropping the deeps.
I think we're going to be looking at a Camille top. Because if you're going jungle there, then you're doing it because you think you're locking in the Jason to mid. Otherwise, you would just counterpick mid right now and go blind top. So I think the Jace is mid into the Syndra, and they're looking to do a hard AD-based counter onto the Gnar. Irelia, Yasuo, Camille, these kinds of champs would be it. No, they've decided the Jason to the Gnar matchup is fine for them, and they're happy to go the Azir into the Syndra. So my gambit wasn't quite on there, but they have essentially secured good lanes for their whole composition, good range for their whole composition, and nice siege potential. The bowling ball from the Lilia coming out at any point, followed up by the Jace, followed up by the Zeri, followed up by the Azir, and the Renata Glask acting as disengage, the speed boost from the Jace Gate acting as disengage, the Azir acting as disengage against a Domino's composition that sure you have a ranged option with the Syndra, but ultimately your Kai'Sa has to go in at some point, your Nor has to go in at some point, Ilya has to go in at some point, and your Nor has to go in at some point. But we have seen Domino's win with that kind of a composition in bad circumstances. Not often, but we have seen it happen, right?
Yeah.
They're falling back onto comfort, and in the final game where you have to prove yourself, I think comfort is the name of the game.
And it's a composition with a clear goal, which I think is what Domino have found their success on this split, and when they've looked good. Those issues that you highlight with the disengage are going to be very prevalent. I'm not seeing how you're getting through that Emperor's Divide. I'm not seeing how you're getting through that hostile takeover. I think Shackle's movement in terms of the team fight is going to be very, very interesting. We highlighted that Johan multiple times was able to get himself in positions where he was getting Dragon's Rage kicks onto Fury, knocking him into the rest of the team, and really reducing that Victor's ability to add to benefit his team in the fights. I think that we need to see something similar come out from the Domino jungler in this game.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, like, Johan's team fighting on the Lee Sin was a very big impact there. But I think if you want to get this composition rolling, you have to be in a similar position to what Veneer were in. And I think if you are, it's easier for you to get these situations where even if Touch, for example, was going really ham at points without follow-up, you have more follow-up on this composition if you go in with the Lee, if you go in with the Nautilus, because the Kai'Sa is primed even if she's halfway across the map. So I think what you want from this Lee Sin is not that... Is Spooder
he's got the vertical cam again. He's got the vertical cam again. I got to respect it. I got to respect it.
Man. Anyway, rather than this scaling Lee Sin, trick style Lee Sin, as I like to call it. Trick, by the way, is a reference to the old G2 jungler trick. I would prefer this more early game where you're going to have access to River off of winning lanes and then follow up any engage your Nautilus or your Lee gets with the Kai'Sa, right? As long as you can move the Kai'Sa, I think you're really, really good to make picks. I think if you don't have that, you're going to end up with playing into the disengage of the Azir of the Renata Glask. And can you really win that? Probably not. So let's not play to scale there. This isn't a game where you look to flank the Victor or some hypothetical carry. Like, you're going to flank yeah, good luck flanking Azir. It's a completely different beast. This guy's a dash, this guy's an ult, this guy's everything.
True.
Right? So you have to play the Leafer early here. You don't have Johan's lazier but looks really cool option of just playing to isolate the low mobility carry. got a lot is going to be on early game in this game in a way that hasn't been for. Let's be real, most of the games today were not decided in early game, were they?
No, not really. It's
well,
I mean,
first game.
You'd have a team get like an early advantage, and then it would kind of peter out to a certain extent. I'm intrigued as to what Snobby is going to be able to do in this game, because I look at this bot lane for Nativz here. You got Zeri, you got the Renata, you've got the double ranged, and that Renata is such a disgustingly good pick into the Nautilus, kind of at all points in the game. So his ability to get out onto the maps of Rome to pair up with Shackle might be limited, and if that's occurring, then getting that snowball going in the early stages is going to be a heck of a lot harder.
I'm just going to call myself out here. If the first game of the day and the last game of the day were... Ooh.
Snobby, that is very aggressive.
No.
Not sure it was worth, buddy.
I respect it.
It's still going to be sticking around.
The real jungler of Dominoes. Showing it again. But unfortunately, he's not playing the lead. But they have gotten the blue.
Yeah, this is going to be worth. And Sibel having to clear leashless now on a Lilia is going to be taking a heck of a long time to actually get on the map. And we've ended up engineering a split map state where the Lilia just can't appear on the bottom side of the map. She is going to be able to steal away these wolves, though. So trying to just edge out any advantage that she can, even though she's in a rough position.
But it's going to be Mini-Gnar on the top lane. There was a period last season where you wouldn't be so worried about that, but since successive nerfs have happened, the Mini-Gnar could end up in a dive situation. But Lilia, she's too far behind off of this late invade to do it, and she's actually contesting the lead.
Yeah, you can't do this, Seaball. No. It's 2.5 minutes into the game. He's only cleared one camp. He's going to have to recall now. This is exactly what Domino would have wanted out of their jungler in the early game.
Then they thought I was memeing when I was talking about the level 2 Lee Sin in the Ruddy game, but level 2 Lee is a monstrous champion compared to a lot of champions in the game. You don't win those duels. You have to accept you've lost your top side.
Snobby gets a hook down onto Baloo, still has the flash, but Renata really not enjoying the laning phase, and it's good to see from the bottom side of the rift for Domino. In the top lane, though, Spood has been having a pretty chill time up against Fjompun.
Yeah, I mean, Domino's felt very confident to take trades on bot. Kai'Sa getting trades early on is really, really good for her, and that's because they know they have the split map scenario secure. Nativz, they can't feel anywhere near as confident about it because Lethal Dano is doing bot side camps ready to kill a
top side. Domino just don't want Siebel to have any fun this game. Shaco will dance forward and get first bloods. This has been a horrible early game. Red buff going over to the Domino jungler, and Siebel is going to have to take a real long time before he can contribute anything to this game.
I mean, I'll call myself out here. If the first game of the day and the last game of the day are decided by early game, then 50% of the games of the day have been decided by early. So I can't really say that today games haven't really been decided early. Well, 50% of them have been. And this, you can see how hard the Lee Sin was going to play for early game. This is the kind of thing I was hoping Riddle were going to try to do. They ultimately didn't do. They just opted for a full clear scenario. But with this composition, you want that Kai'Sa to be relevant. You need control on the map because you know you lose out on the 5v5s, and this is ultimately how you would do it, given the win conditions that are present.
And it's felt very sort of pre-planned here from Domino. It feels like they know exactly how they've wanted to play out these opening 5 minutes, and it's going to put Siebel in a point where you can't get to that level 6 very, very quickly on the Lilia. You've got the ability to power farm, yes, but you're already being outpaced, you're already being out-tempoed by a Domino side that needed to do exactly this.
I think as jungler plus support here, there's a very clear idea of the options open in the early game, and then you have to do the calculus of how necessary those early flips are for your composition, and I think it's quite obvious here. So yeah, the transition from that into what I assume must be a very jungler-led game should be obvious on the Domino side, but let's be real, we're seeing many teams not recognize. So hats off to Domino's for recognizing that, but on the flip side, they have Nativz on the back foot. Right, they're on the back foot. Me and Aragon, we've both predicted them, but Duckling, he's gone the Domino's way, which means Duckling could end up catching up, even though we both ended up going on the other side on the Nord one, which means Duckling, we could end up with a 3-man tie for first place at the end of the day if Domino's are able to transition this into a full-on win. This game potentially matters the most for the real standings of any game today.
What are the prediction tiebreaker rules, actually? I don't know if those are in the ERL rulebook.
In the event that everybody is even, the winner will be decided by whoever Astro Smurfs playoffs and wins overall. We're in the regular split of predictions, right? And qualifying in, as you can see on your screen here, right? You had the no bet against, but I'm pretty sure if you run the maths through here, then actually no, is Duckling therefore like he's still -2 on me?
Yeah,
so I think he can only get to 40.
Duckling's -2. I think you and Aragon are you're even right now, and you've both voted Nativz. So I think that the tie has just been confirmed, veteran. It's a title that you're going to have to share.
Oh no, I have to share it with Aragon. I'm wondering if I share it with Duckling, and I'm pretty sure that.
I think Duckling's down.
Actually, if Duckling had matched with Aragon and then bet against him on the Nativz one, then he would have been able to do it. No, he didn't. They're all operating on this level. You know, it's fine. All right. I missed 2 days of predictions and I'm still #1, guys. Okay. Imagine.
Every single green room, you remind me of that veteran.
I mean, what can I say? What can I say?
Comes in with the prep document. Yeah. This is how I win the prediction.
I was so close to just like using the Excel spreadsheet to make an algorithm to just match them. I didn't even know who I voted today for, guys, by the way. I just knew I had to like match and unmatch if I wanted to have sole possession. There was a scenario where I could just match Aragon on all of them and I guarantee first, but then there's a low-key risk that Duckling matches. But like I went for the solo win, guys. Like I was fine with doing that.
You were going
I went for the more winning play. I was fine with that. You have to make it interesting.
But now it does have to come down to playoffs.
It does.
And
I do my best work there.
I don't know. Are we going to be doing? I don't know if we're going to be doing like just match winner or game score, because I feel like game score predictions, that's when you can really start to get a little bit funky with it.
I'm really interested about that because the last time we did a prediction race was EU Masters Summer, right? And that one, they had a separate point system for getting the game score and getting the winner overall, right? So I'm interested in the point system that we're going to end up doing here for that. That's going to be up to production, right? That's going to be up to production. But I just want to say, Middlecott, like, how many games do you think I got wrong in the EU Masters playoffs?
It's going to be 0, isn't it?
It's 0. I got every single game.
Well, do you know what? Good for you. We're back. League of Legends is on our screen after that brief tangent. Predictions are fun. Predictions are fun, but you take them way too seriously,
Predictions are so fun. No, I just want to clarify, guys. I don't think predictions say anything about how good an analyst you are. Especially in the BO1 scenario, I don't think it says anything about it. Aragon's a fantastic analyst. I'm just having fun with the predictions, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, sort of... That sort of confirms... I don't know where I'm going there, to be perfectly honest.
I was really, I didn't know.
Right, so my thing with predictions... hold on, Spooder.
The script has been flipped.
Spooder's
like, hang on a second.
We were having a nice little conversation about
predictions. To Duckling.
It's just got a W. I mean, like, looking at Nativz, Spooder has more often than not been that guy that we've looked towards, and seeing him on the more carry-oriented champions, the Gwen in their win yesterday, and now on the Jace as well. His Olaf, obviously infamous too. This is, I think, really where Nativz have looked their most threatening.
I love how unbothered Spooder looked at his solo kill on Fionboon. Meanwhile, Fionboon, he couldn't even show his face after that, you know? Mental advantage to Nativz.
Mental advantage.
I mean, if you're always Nativz, you're always playing on home ground anyway, no?
God, because it's... yes.
It's a mental advantage secured.
True, I feel like there are some teams that play like worse at home, though.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think I never know whether to say they play worse at home or if they just get better at LAN. You know, I've always felt like I, for example, am one of those guys that do their best works in front of an audience when they're under pressure. I don't know why, but it makes me. I don't overthink when I'm in front of an audience. You know, the anxiety helps me do better.
Yeah.
Overall.
No. Well, I think that's the thing is like, if you're doing something difficult, quite often your first choice is going to be like the best option for you to go with something. It's why, if you're in an exam and you want to change your answers, hold on! Flash predict on the hook from Snarby, but it's going to be forced away. The first answer that you put in an exam is more often not going to be right. When you go back and change it, you're going to make it wrong. Trust your gut, trust yourself, and you're going to pull through.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can't try to figure it out in the exam, right? All the prep's already done. Your body knows what it needs to do, so just let it do it, right? And if you can not overthink it, you'll do well. Like, a lot of people, their response to the anxiety is to overthink it. They end up with self-doubt. And then, but if you're the kind of person, I feel like, for example, people like them Voxney who constantly make comebacks are those kinds of people. Or, if you're able to use that anxiety to not overcomplicate things, then you're going to be in more of a winning position at LAN. It is interesting, this debate, because you never really know with people, right?
It's the clutch factor, right? It's the clutch factor. You got some people who, when you get into those sort of positions of pressure where it really is all on, where you go into a little bit of a calmer state. Domino are thinking about setting up a bot lane dive as Shaolin is rotating over, the wave crashing in, but Remix and Blue have sniffed this one out, so no kills are going to be over, but they are going to be losing out on a little bit of this wave, a little bit of this CS, and Larry can get a plate for himself. On top lane, actually, Spooder!
Oh, it's returned!
Caught out, thrown against the wall, taken out by Fjontburn, okay.
That's for having a vertical camera right there.
I would be surprised if that is the specific reason.
Nah, that was why.
I can't imagine it doesn't go into there. There's got to be some element of that.
But yeah, of course. It's motivation.
Out of the early stages, right? Domino, around about 1,000 in the lead. They've got themselves a Hextech Salt. Sibel, that's not your jungle body. Should be able to recall out of this one just fine, but it is Domino who have been making the plays first, now rotating over to this Held, should be able to take this one down. The composition that needed to do things in the early game is doing things in the early game.
But this here, crucially, Snarby himself is the one making that really strong rotation into mid, in towards top side. And yeah, like Sebel, he was in the wrong jungle there, but he was able to get out. But we've always seen Snarby be able to put that kind of priority on the first Herald. Very good map-based support. Sometimes he could be accused of doing too much on the map, but never ever too little. But ultimately, this is a normal Domino's early game, and the normal, how should I say it, high variance early game from Nativz.
No, that was...
Nice.
High variance from Domino, I think, if anything, and Snarby has overstepped, as we were saying it.
Yeah, too much on the map.
The jungle support duo goes a little bit too far forward, and Nativz more than happy to punish.
Yeah, I mean, Larry is used to being alone here because Snarby is used to being extended on the map a lot, but on the flip side there, you'll end up in an opportunity where Sebel, he's recalled, and the whole time you were doing Held, you were doing multiple objectives, you were moving from bot towards mid, he was getting gold and he was spending it and coming back, and now suddenly you're not in a good position to win this. Scuffed recognizes how good a position they were in, abandons the lane on mid, picks up a kill as well, and Nativz, they're fighting their way back into the game in classic Nativz style. Again, kind of what we expect from Domino's early game. They're not behaving any differently to how they normally do, but with Nativz, you never quite know what you... Well, I mean, you did know until they won one game, but before that, you never quite... But after that, you never quite know what you're getting from them. But you do know it's going to come at those random opportunities where their opponents, they make those key mistakes, and Nativz, they're fully happy to go back in on it every time.
And I'll tell you what, with a couple of kills now onto Spooder, on the Jace, I think they could be pretty happy with where they're at, where this game stands. That guy has been a big carry for them in previous games, is a big carry in their last win. But you've also got a little bit of gold on Scuff. These solo laners are getting advantages, which is exactly where you want them.
Yeah. Oh, should be
top
solo.
lane. It's Spooner.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, he literally opted into that. I don't know how he ended up in that position earlier. It could be that Spuda forced him in up there, but there was no way Nar could win an all-in from that position. Yeah, transition to a solo kill nicely by Spuda. Very significant lead on him. That's going to be the point that Nativz will use to try to play through later on. Held goes down mid, but it's not going to get anything.
Oh, Scuff with the push back onto Shaolin. The Syndra gonna flash, but it takes a little bit too long. Shackle can't quite find the Q, falls asleep, maybe falling into his grave. The flash from Sebel and from Scuffed will take him down. A double kill for the Nativz mid laner now. Fjongbon in a horrible spot. The soldiers not quite in range, but Nativz 6 kills to 2, finding themselves in the advantage.
I've definitely had questions about Scuffed from some performances beforehand, but this game, every possible opportunity, he has gone in, he's abandoned waves, he's done everything he can, and he hasn't messed up the execution of those plays. All Domino's can do is reset bot lane, but they're not going to get a pick here. Really nice opener here. The sleep coming in on Shackle, preventing him executing Balu there and potentially getting Triumph. Fjongbon, he's in the middle of them, but he's mini now. You're very, very squishy here, mate. Scuffed obviously opens that entire play of his ultimate. Wasn't quite in the replay there, but Scuffed played the rest of it very, very well, and now he's 3-0.
And I tell you what, we were saying, okay, Spuda, Scuffed getting leagues that great. Since then, Spuda has got another kill for himself, and Scuffed has collected a couple more. Nativz, whilst they are losing out of these early Drakes, and that's definitely something Domino can play towards, I think the 2k gold lead a bit more impactful at the moment.
Yeah, very impactful. Just gives Nativz really good opportunities to get access to River through their side lanes later on.
Oh, getting access to Shaolin as well. It's exactly the same play as before, but instead Remix will be the beneficiary.
This guy's bringing out a very useful Azir for his team, isn't he?
Oh,
oh well, there it goes.
Dead
useful
Azir
for which team?
at the moment. It's another kill for Shackle, but that doesn't remove the playmaking that we have been seeing from that man in the mid lane for Nativz, though. And Shackle is more than happy to... Oh, why? Every time we go top lane, Fjongbon and Spuda are just fist fighting the boulder going wide, but the Lee Sin emerging from the river is hungry for blood. Ward hops forward and gets his second shutdown in a minute. Okay, Shackle with this more damage-oriented Lee Sin, maybe turning into the carry that Domino desperately needs.
Nice. Yep. See, Remix knows the script in the Nativz game as well.
I love having player cams.
Can we get a replay on that?
Love
Full screen it for the audience.
Cams.
I guarantee there are people who didn't notice that.
Go back and watch the VOD. That was absolutely fantastic. But it has been a little bit kooky, a little bit crazy in the early game. And the advantages that Nativz built, Domino's getting a little bit back for themselves. I think it's really going to be up to these bigger team plays where we're getting 4 or 5 members of both teams on one screen. If someone could get an advantage in those, it's going to be a bit more concrete.
Quick mini game though. Can you say Shackle second shutdown 3 times really fast?
Yeah. No, well, I couldn't say it the first time, so I don't think I'm going to be saying it very many times very quickly.
Shaolin
On to Sebel Shaolin with the shutdown.
That's the thing, if one of these guys gets a pick, they have so much follow-up, but only in these individual scenarios where Renata, Azir, Jace, Lilia aren't just going to disengage your whole team. If they can keep these isolate pressure scenarios, then they can win. That's why it's so deadly for Jace to have a lead, for Azir to have a lead. If they're able to take over side lanes, you're not going to isolate them. They're always going to have a grouping coming in.
It's Domino that are able to make the play, able to make it work, and that's going to accelerate them towards this itemization. Charlotte now picking up the Luden's Tempest, and there's not too many health bars on the side of Nativz, or the health bars aren't too big, so that additional burst is going to be incredibly impactful in terms of getting these people down, getting these people off the board.
Getting people off the board is kind of what you want to do, no?
I think it is exactly what you want to do.
I think it makes the game a little bit easier.
Killing the enemy. A known path to success. Whoa, hold on. Going Mega Ball once again, scuffed with the slide and glide. And Boom with another death. The Nativz mid laner making things happen all over the map.
Yeah, but Domino's, they're doing the macro play. They're taking mid tower, they're going to crash it onto mid tier 2 and shifting into the bot side away from the big carries on the side of Nativz. So Domino's, they may be able to transition this into 2 towers. They got the tier 1 in mid. Tier 2, that will eventually go down, but this tier 1 in bot lane will go down for it. Domino's playing 2 lanes for Nativz 1.
And those kills are great, but they don't get you closer to the Nexus. They can be a little bit deceiving in terms of the power level that they hand over. And now Domino's are going to have a much better time fighting for stacking up these Drakes. The next one spawning in 40 seconds. And they've already established so much vision in the bot side Nativz jungle.
Reset. Larry. Oh, okay, Larry can't reset. So the gold he got from the tower and from the minions on bot side, he's not going to be able to spend before this Drake. He stayed on the map while the rest of his team did so. Hopefully he didn't have that much money to spend. Wouldn't mind seeing how much money he has right now. 940, that's at least an additional pickaxe to me, or double longsword. Feel like they're going to feel not having that spent in the next fight, but let's see, I could be wrong.
Snarby is opening up very, very early onto blue, and the rest of Domino's just aren't here to back up the Nautilus. Here they come, and he gets the ultimate away. It's enough to push back Nativz. Domino are going to move over onto this Drake. This would be Soul Point, Infernal Soul Point, which is a decisive advantage, potentially decisive advantage. You could play around Fyumpum with the ultimate, the Gnar, knocking a few people away, and Domino, they haven't been able to fully commit to this fight. Snarby going forward, there gets the hook, but immediately has to flashback away, and Domino, they've not been able to find anything concrete. It's scuffed with the first kill and the last kill of the play for Nativz. So, ultimately trading your top laner for a Drake, for a Soul Point. Domino, going to be happy with what they've come out with.
Yeah, you say they didn't get anything concrete there, but they were able to secure Soul Point, and in 5 minutes' time, at 23 minutes into the game, they should be in a position where they'll have an Infernal Soul.
Larry, this is very aggressive killer instinct onto Remix, and the rest of Domino are joining the AD carry in the backline. 2 kills for the blue side team, 3 kills for the team in blue. A shutdown for Scuffed. This game is starting to go in favor of the team from Norway.
I'd be very interested. Look here, if Larry gets that reset off earlier, pretty sure Remix is already dead. It's easier to follow up on the kills on Sabal. Shackle's probably going in onto Scuff there, so you could have been looking at a full ace if Larry gets that reset earlier. I'd actually be very interested if someone did the maths on that. If he spent his items on the next component, if he spent his items, spent his gold on the next components on that reset, if that would have changed a team fight that much. These resets do matter, guys. But still, a win's a win for Domino's there. They'll be very happy with that. And Baron is going to spawn in 30 seconds. We're entering the late game. There's no Veneer here. There's no Verdant here. This doesn't definitively swing the game in either team's favor. Nativz, we don't really know how they win. We know Domino's win by consistently getting these kinds of picks, as they have been doing so for this game. Let's see if that continues, or if Nativz get the grouping that they need.
But because the game is in a very, very weird spot right now. Domino, they're setting themselves up to be in a commanding position, but I don't feel like they've got the necessary raw power to completely steamroll over Nativz. Just let a couple of 1,000 gold in the advantage, a few Drakes to the good, that's great, but it doesn't automatically win you the fight. If you're on Nativz, what are you looking for? What are you trying to do in the next 5 minutes to keep this game from going away from you?
I mean, if you're Nativz, what you want is a grouping. So the best way to get that is to dissuade your opponent from just splitting you on sides. And the best way to do that is what they're doing right now. 4-man dragged in the mid lane. If you're on the sides right now and you extend on the sides and say try to play for that tier 2 on top, Nativz can just go from mid and collapse on you in top. This forces a grouping, but what's the issue? The issue is that while you're playing this one lane here, technically 2 lanes of Azir bot, the XP and the gold is being spread more equally over Domino. So if you don't find something here, Dominoes get the lead overall.
And Nativz aren't able to find anything here. That was smartly disengaged from Domino, knowing that they were at the numbers disadvantage and not opting in for the fight.
They were able to get the mid tower. That does give them a bit of gold.
Sibo! One shot! Oh my word, Shaolin!
Yeah. So now that mid tower doesn't matter as much. It does matter for positioning for the rest of the game. Oh, they traded it. They traded it, though. That can be a very scrappy game. But Nativz, they're at least trying to do the right things here. Just they're doing it off of the back foot. Dominoes, they're being somewhat patient, but obviously...
Oh, we're seeing another play in the topside jungle. There as Baloo's been taken down by Shackle. It appears that every time we try and pan away, the teams conspire to make some action happen. 21 minutes into the game, 21 kills in the game, and still no winner yet.
When individual mistakes happen at this rate, it's impossible to focus in on any one macro decision, explain it in its entirety, because the game ultimately is coming down to the points where those macro decisions aren't able to be executed properly because individual players are getting picked off the way that we've seen for the last few minutes. In that regard, it becomes how are they getting picked off, why are they getting picked off, who are we able to target off of that, and where should we position, knowing that, say, jungle support are putting themselves in areas where we're going to be able to capitalize on it.
In 30 seconds, Domino are going to have a crack at an Infernal Soul. And I don't know about you, but that one shot in top lane onto Seabold, I think that's going to look a hell of a lot worse if you've got an Infernal Soul backing you up. Nativz, they need to contest it. They need to somehow find a way into the river, but Domino will be trying to deny at every opportunity. They're getting a stun through onto Baloo, and there is no hope for the Renata Glass. Scuff trying to get an ultimate away to dissuade the engage, to disengage the fight, but it cannot happen. Larry dives over the wall. It's 4 hitting the floor for Nativz, and Domino head to the Baron.
That should be double objectives. Lee Sin doing the Infernal, pinging help for some reason, while the rest of his team goes towards the Baron. Jace could maybe try to flip a steal with EQ, but ultimately this looks to be Domino securing Infernal Souls, securing Baron, and looking to end the game. They stuck to their guns. They were able to get the early game lead they had to, and here, yes, it's a 5v5 in terms of how many people in proximity to each other, but in reality, they opened it with a pick that was 4v1. Larry looked and saw isolated people getting picked off, turned it into 2v1s into 1v1 on what is essentially an assassin in the Kaiser. It wasn't really a 5v5, it was a series of picks, and Dominoes are the ones with the pick comp.
And now they are walking away with the Infernal Soul, with the Baron, and Nativz have got really only a hope and a prayer left. The 2-0 week, maybe it was a bit of a beam coming into the final week of the split, but with their win yesterday, a lot of people thought it was on. And given the early stages of the game, we thought it could have been on, but Domino showing themselves to be just that little bit better, showing some of the potential that we so often said this team's have and haven't really been able to see come to fruition. They're in a winning position in this game. It's about closing it out cleanly.
Well, I think we should temper our expectations on the clean part, but I do believe Dominoes can close this out. Maybe we'll get a few snags if Snabby extends too far again, but the intent, at the very least, is good, right? He wants to have impact on a lot of these fights, and he has made a lot of game-winning openings for his team. Just when it gets to this siege scenario, that's where Nativ's composition on these tier 3s could really start to make a comeback off of any slight little bit of word of the day, impatience by Dominoes.
I mean, because Domino haven't got the best siege, right? Syndra could operate at a relatively decent range, but the Kaiser has to walk very, very close to that tower to hit it. You're kind of looking for a dive. You're looking for a little bit of impatience on the side of Nativz, whereas they are just going to be, okay, batten down the hatches, chill out for a little while. We've only got a minute left on this enemy Baron. As long as we can keep clearing these waves, we're staying in this game.
Yeah, they don't have a Sivir, but they do have a Jace, and they do have a Zeri, and they're doing their absolute best. But look at the damage coming out in the mid tower just from these minions. Lari isn't able to get any autos off. Shaolin's obviously not doing any autos off. Shackle's getting bot, but the minions are doing enough damage on these inhibitor turrets. So long as they don't feel like they need to commit, Nativz shouldn't find that comeback window where Scuffed gets an engage off with the Azir, and Nata is able to get his entire ultimate on top of them. Anything like this happens, maybe in the miraculous Lilia ultimate engage. That's more of a secondary though. So long as they play away from their groupings, they should be fine. And in doing so, they've gotten the Baron. They've gotten the inhibitor down on bot lane, which does make it easier to play for Baron in 3 minutes time when it's up again, because the bot lane will be pushing itself, and you'll be able to take vision control of that Baron setup fairly simply.
And it was all about moving between the lanes there for Domino. They were poking at that mid lane for quite a long time. They then sent a couple people up towards the top side. Then that rotated into the bot lane, and Nativz not quite able to match in time. 2 inhibitors going down. This is pretty much as clean as we would have liked here from Domino. They don't overstep on that play. They get exactly what they need, and they back away.
Have we ever had a split with 0 wins in NLC history?
I don't think so.
In which case, Nativz are looking to have the lowest record in NLC history, at the very least tying it, if they lose this game. That is genuinely a big thing on the line here. You don't want to be an organization with that kind of a history. They do have a composition that can make a comeback at these points, and you have to think they're hungry to find it here.
And really, the opportunities for that comeback, you're looking at, okay, there's a Baron in a minute 50, but that doesn't really make us too much stronger in the fight. So Elder is really the last opportunity for that, and it wouldn't surprise me, honestly, if Domino try and close out the game before that's even a possibility that Nativz can contest for. They've pitched themselves up in this top lane, the final lane remaining for Nativz, with any structures left in it, and with sounds like that coming through from Shaolin, it's just a matter of time before the structure dies.
Yeah, but the Baron is also run out now, so they're not going to have 3 minions on top side. If they want to do something, they have to do it with a fight. You have Gnar on mid lane there, looking to flank from mid lane in towards here. A dive has to happen, but if they make it happen from as many angles as possible, Nativz disengage won't be as impactful.
Scuff going in, gets a shuffle back onto one, but it is nowhere near enough. Starby a little bit aggressively diving forward, but Sibyl gets one shot by a Dark Sphere from Shaolin. Okay, it's a 2 for 2, but Domino are still pushing back Nativz in their base.
Oh, he's landed it. And
No
Remix,
way.
he's just going to have to stay under the tier 2s, which means 3 inhibitor towers will be down, and that top inhibitor, that's still going to be down in 30 seconds, where Elder is up. If they're not able to close here, you bet they're going to be able to close with Elder.
Oh, Shackle has the Dragon's Rage. She's got the kick. But Nativz have got respawns coming through in just a moment, and health bars that are a little bit too full. And yeah, like you said, all Domino can need to do now is retreat back to these massive neutral objectives that don't feel too neutral if you're on the side of Nativz, because it's going to be so difficult to contest around the Elder, around the Baron.
Yep, they have double super minion waves coming in on all sides as well. That bot lane double super minion wave helping them get the Baron. That top lane super minion wave helping them get the Elder. Nativz, they're split by extremely powerful minions. They have to make a really fast play on the Elder. It's a flip, but
they're just going into the base. They're just going into the base. Shackle, the jungler for Domino, isn't even at the Drake. Nativz are pulling TPs. They are jumping back into their base, and that's going to open up the Elder for Domino should they want to take it. One more Nexus tower focus down. The Remix is trying to hop. Well, no. He just can't do it. And Domino will take down Nativz in the end. A game that was close for a while, but closed out cleanly. They'll set themselves up with a tiebreaker against Unique for 6th position.
I respect it. I respect those final plays by Nativz there. Spooder was able to show in-game that he does deserve to be more placed on carries. We didn't see him placed on those earlier on, even though his history shows he's actually a pretty big carry player. And Scuffed, honestly, to me, this felt like a redemption game from Scuffed.
Yeah.
We've had questions about him for the entirety of the split, but he performed very, very well this game. Very useful for his team on that as it, engaging with those shuffles, splitting off from his wave to follow up with his jungler, punishing enemy support for his extensions, enemy jungler for his extensions. Looked like a very good ray of light. There were rays of hope for Nativz, but they're gonna go down. They got one win only the entirety of the split. Weren't able to go 2-0 with Domino's, and Domino's, they finished 2nd from last, and they're gonna have to be happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, they do have that tie record now set up with Unique, so winner of that game being played on the 10th on Friday is going to be able to go into 6th, so that's great for that's more championship points, right? But yeah, not really the season that either of these teams would have wanted coming in. Looking at Domino, though, I think whilst this game was close in the early stages, they did show a decent level of control once the game got a little bit later, and I'm interested to who you think the MVP is for this team.
For me, it always goes back to how heavily the support plays map. So sometimes that could end up being a bad thing, sometimes that could end up being a good thing. If I could give it to the entirety of the bot lane, I kind of would, right? But I think ultimately I'll have to give it to Domino's support again. That being said, Shaykal's early game was very strong, but that also felt like a jungle support thing. Actually, maybe this time around, I think I give it to Shaykal. If I'm probably completely mispronouncing your name. It's Shakal, Shaykal, Shekel. Well, I don't know.
Well, I mean,
you decide.
I have my issues pronouncing that in the game, which is
that
fine.
Guy. The lead.
But he's had some good performances, and I think again,
yes.
It's intriguing how we speak about Domino, and I believe production has just told us that we've got a video coming up. I don't know what it is, but let's take a look, everybody.
Hello, NLC. I'm Pride from Domino. You've probably seen me as the most interviewed person this season. That's a good meme. Sadly, this season hasn't been going that great for us. And right now, we're going to be facing Riddle in our second to last match, and we're fighting for 6th place, yes. But sometimes it might be hard for players to find motivation when you're not really fighting for the top. So I decided to give them a little gift. This is how it looks here in Norway, in Tromsø at the moment. I decided, since it's -degrees outside, and my players need something motivating to win and to crush Riddle. If they beat Riddle today, I will do the interview somewhere in this pile of snow, just in shorts. So, yeah, see you on the interview panel later.
I mean, as his head was expanding over and over again, I was waiting for him to announce that Nativz are looking for 5 teenagers with attitude next split.
Oh god, I love that though. I'm just intrigued, excited for the interview because he did say Riddle there. And
I'd have been very impressed if they beat Riddle today.
I'd have been very impressed. This was a win today, and I'm waiting with bated breath, honestly, for the interview. Because I'm not sure whether we're going to have Pride inside or Pride outside.
Yeah. If I want to motivate my team as well, what I show them is a post-apocalyptic wasteland. That would be my motivation.
What you take him to Slough?
True, could do.
similar thing, different ways to motivate. I've always liked the idea of like at the end of like some sporting achievement, just like dunking the coach or the manager in like a whole like it's a load of Gatorade in the NFL. But I believe that the interview is now ready. If production are not gaslighting me, hello, Brian.
Hello.
Hello.
You just sort of chilling, are you?
I needed to cool down for a bit. I was intense.
If you stay there long enough, you won't feel it much. Don't worry.
I'm not feeling it anymore.
Right. Well,
Okay.
that's maybe a good thing. That's maybe a bad thing. I'm not.
It's almost definitely a bad thing.
If you're in slow, can't feel your body parts. Not great. But
Well, it's nice outside, so you know.
Oh, that is a beautiful view, mate. But you guys
I know, right?
getting the win here today. So as promised, doing the interview from the snow. How are you feeling, mate?
A bit cold. No, I'm feeling great. It feels good to end the season on a win, although we had to play tiebreakers. I'm not going to do this again on Friday, so. But it feels good to kind of show with the Spooter that we're better than them. He thought he would win today. He said he was going to crush us, and then he's going to bring out his old jersey and beat it up and stuff. And he can't do that anymore, so that feels very good.
You seem very content.
Yeah, I can sit here and just cool down and enjoy the moment. You know, this is good stuff. It's kind of therapy, actually.
Well, I almost feel like I'm intruding here on you because you're clearly just having a very, very chill time. We had a little bit of snow in the UK, but definitely not that much.
It wasn't actually this bad.
Wait, hold on. Are you like wearing a coat or a shirt or anything?
No.
I'm wearing shorts. That's it. Only shorts.
Oh my god. Yeah, you're an absolute madman. Veteran.
It's called cryotherapy.
Anything to add,
Yeah.
mate?
Can you say, find me 5 teenagers with attitude?
Find me 5 teenagers with attitude.
Thank you. Okay, cool.
Right, well, Pride.
I'm gonna.
I guess we just leave him to it. He's clearly enjoying himself.
No, leave him to it. The man knows what he's doing.
Yeah, well,
You know?
Pride. Great seeing you
This
here.
is actually a tease, by the way. Like, they're going to announce LS on the as their next.
Okay, but we do now have the interview with Spooner, top laner for Nativz. We listening to Pride there, he was saying that you were had some fighting words going into today's game. Unfortunately for you, not quite able to work out in the end.
Yes, I mean, I was gonna smack him around like a domino, but that didn't go very well, did it? But I mean, I did well in my lane, I can say, you know?
Yeah,
True.
that's
True.
It's always sort of difficult coming into these interviews, and to be perfectly honest, I'm just glad that you guys won yesterday, so I don't have to interview at 014. But how does it feel as a player coming off this sort of split? Because obviously, from yourself individually, we have seen a lot of these very, very strong carry performances come out for yourself, particularly in the latter half of the split, but that hasn't translated to the wins that you guys needed to really make an impact on the standings. I kind of want to get your personal takeaways and how you feel like the last few weeks have gone for yourself.
I think we have like a bit of anti-synergy, right? And you can see it in our drafts, you can see it in our game where we're kind of all playing things and getting things that don't really synergize and all want resources, right? Like, for example, in today's draft, we don't really have anyone to be a facilitator. Instead, we have everyone wanting to take resources. So we've been working on, finding like a middle ground. And I think it's gone, like, even if, I ended the split in 113, I'm not very disappointed because I know I've learned a lot. I've been taught a lot of macro, been taught a lot of matchups, like 5 new that I could have, but did grow out, So, like, if it's 113, then
Yeah, I think we might have just lost Spooder there, which is unfortunate. I think he was raising definitely a lot of good points though, veteran. Like with these sorts of split that Nativz have had, it's something that you have to learn from. Otherwise, there's not much that you can take, right?
Oh yeah, I mean you're not taking wins, are you?
It's an unfortunate state, but I think it's definitely a good attitude for him to have coming through. But that's it now, veteran. That is it for the NLC regular split. The next stop is going to be playoffs. How do you feel like the last few games have gone?
I mean, very impressed with Verdant and their rise at the end, especially their win against Riddle. Ultimately, I wasn't there to cast, but very impressed by their development over the course. If I was a betting man early on, I would have bet on Veneer rather than them. Veneer had less things that they needed to learn. Verdant had a very uphill battle to get to this point, but made it they have, and there are multiple points on that team to talk about. I'm really excited to see how they perform when it gets to the playoffs and the top four there, because we very frequently had these teams that no one expects from the regular split just immediately destroy XL back in the day, for example, right? Or X7 back in the day. Well, why are so many teams with X? And make some rises. Maybe these guys will start upsetting people in the lower brackets, or maybe even further on.
Yeah, and it's we've kind of ended the regular split at a very intriguing point, because right at the start, in week one, we were looking at teams like Riddle, like Nord, going, okay, these guys are just going to be able to go through basically uncontested. We kind of got our top two lock. And whilst those are the teams that have come out of on top, I don't look at these guys as Goliaths, right? Well, maybe you look at them at Goliaths, but we've got a league full of Davids, because it feels like even in games that they have been able to pull out the wins in, they have been pushed, they have been contested, I think a lot more than they would have expected.
I mean, Verdant and Ruddy are wildcards, right? They're wildcards for sure, and honestly, the NLC's history, it's never been the ones at the top of regular split that have won it all. It's never been those guys, right? Obviously, there are exceptions to that, but this is a league that promotes upsets in those BO5 stages, where the difference between a BO5 and a BO1 is night and day. And yeah, you can't count anyone out at this point. No matter what the BO1 records show you, you can't count anybody out.
Absolutely.
Except for everyone that has to bet against me in the prediction races. It's over once we hit the playoffs, once we hit the BO5s. I do not miss. I do not lose. I will get all of them correct.
Wow, that is going to be a banger. And talking of the playoffs, that is going to be what is coming up next. So we're going to be kicking that off next Tuesday with Riddle facing off against Nord in our Juggernaut match. And then Ruddy will be taking on Verdant in our lower bracket semi-final. Loser of that Juggernaut match between Riddle and Nord is going to be playing the winner of Ruddy Verdant. And then the winner of that best of 5 is going to face off against the winner from the Juggernaut match in the grand final. Winner of that goes to EMEA Masters, and loser will have to qualify through the play-in stage. Veteran, I can't wait for next week. I can't wait for the playoffs to get underway.
The Riddle Nord BO5 will be extremely interesting, to be honest. I'm more hyped for that than I am for the Ruddy Verdant one. The Verdant one, I don't expect that I actually know what they are going to be bringing out there. I'm going to spend a while thinking about that. But the Riddle Nord one, I can already simulate somewhat in my head. And yeah, that's going to go blow for blow. And I think it's going to surprise people how that one goes. The big thing I still feel is that everyone is trying to catch up to how Riddle understand mid-jungle. I'm going to be very interested to see if any of these teams start to level up their understanding there, because that's an advantage that Riddle could potentially, they're not there yet, potentially carry through into EMEA Masters.
Well, I think we've got a lot of teams that have got a lot of potential. Not just Riddle. You look at Nord, the talent that they've got, Verdant's rise, and the madness that Ruddy can inflict on the game. But that is all League of Legends for another day. This has been the final day of the NLC regular split. Make sure that you join us on the 10th for that tiebreaker between Unique and Domino. But after that, it is all about the playoffs. Thank you so much for tuning in to watch us today. Veteran, thank you for casting alongside me. I have been Middlecop. We will see you next week.